Hello everyone and welcome to the July edition of CommerceBytes, which is also our inaugural edition. My name is Saurabh and I'm the founder of Assurex, an engineering agency specializing in Sitecore. We've recently been recognized as a Sitecore Silver Solution Partner. And if you want to know more about our company or the services that we offer, please head to our website at assurex.co. In this July edition, first up we have got Timothy Steleman, who is a global commerce architect at Sitecore and has over 2 decades of IT experience. Today, he will share his knowledge on how to correctly get started with the commerce implementations. Now, let me get out of the way and hand it over to Timothy. Over to you, Timothy.
CommerceBytes. Thank you so much, Sarah, Sandeep, for inviting me. Also, everybody that is attending this webinar or that will watch it later. Nice to see you all here. So when I was asked to give a presentation here, I thought about what would be a good start to this series of sessions, and I figured what better way to start than a session on how to approach a commerce implementation rather than immediately diving into deep technical or practical implementation specifics. There's a lot of planning that comes with a commerce project. So my name is Timothy Steleman. I am a global commerce solution architect at Sitecore. I have, as Saurabh mentioned, about 2 decades of IT experience, mainly in the e-commerce space. Before joining Sitecore 2 years ago, I was a commerce MVP for 3 years. I am currently still the co-admin of the Sitecore Commerce Mentoring Guild, Facebook and LinkedIn communities, and currently based in Belgium. That's my home, but the world is my backyard. Look me up on LinkedIn and Twitter if you need to reach out. So, you're starting a commerce project. Well, there's something you should know. I'm going to start with just 4 things to be aware of, and then I'll move on into some practical tips. Some of you may know some of this, some of you won't. This all comes from personal experience. I hope it can help you in getting a better grip on any project you may be part of, you may be starting, or you may be thinking about. First, and this is knocking open an open door, but commerce projects have a lot more stakeholders than any other type of project. That's because not only do you have the digital side of things, but you also have the whole back office side. In a typical web project, you will have IT and your digital team and marketing all being involved. But when doing e-commerce, there's also operations, the whole fulfillment chain, warehousing. Finance may get involved because of how invoices are being sent afterwards, of how financial accounting is being done, and even purchasing can get involved. And I'll give you an example of that. The purchasing team within an organization will buy the products that then later get sold. And so a few years ago, I was part of a commerce implementation, and we had everything nicely set up and the site was live, and purchasing all of a sudden comes to us and says, yeah, we have one of our suppliers, and in this case it was Coca-Cola, that isn't happy because on the site in the search, they're showing up lower than that other Coke brand, Pepsi. And they are actually sponsoring a marketing campaign right now. Typically these vendors, they will give marketing dollars to retailers, or euros for that matter. And so the whole notion of being able to prioritize certain brands over others was something that never came up. And so yeah, that had to be implemented, of course, with a delay while already go live. So make sure everybody within the organization has a voice. And it doesn't mean you need 10 cooks in the kitchen. Just make sure that you listen to everybody, because sooner or later they will be at your desk. Whether you're a project manager, the project owner, or a developer, sooner or later you're going to interact with each and every one of these people. Just make sure that the project governance, the project ownership structure is also clear, just to be able to maintain control. Otherwise it's going to be chaotic as far as requirements go. But most of all, look for allies by looking for value, find value for everybody that is part of this project. That is key to making this a success. Next, again, another cliche as tall as an iceberg, but your requirements in an e-commerce project will have a lot more dependencies than in a non-transactional project. For example, a very simple example, if you have a marketing site where you show product information, you're really talking about content. That is it. And okay, you can personalize that content. You can, you need to gather the content. So there's also work to be done. But the moment you want to make that product detail page transactional, add to cart button, there's a lot more that comes into play. You need the content, you need the master data, you need the pricing, promotions, inventory, you need to know shipping information, cost, and much more, warranty, etc. So with everything that you do, that you think about, that you want in your final product, do know that every requirement will have a lot more dependencies. And the same goes for changes. Whatever change you make will have a lot more implications, a much longer tail. That's why I have this, I believe it's a gecko with a long tail on here. And I'll give you another example. For internet sales, a customer wanted to add a free item to the basket for every order as a kind of a launch promotion, and it's a nice idea, and it's not the hardest thing to implement on the website. Sitecore in version 10 supports this requirement even out of the box, but we noticed then the ERP system just didn't allow a zero price item to be added on an order. So it first had to add it with a cost, and then there needed to be a discount because zero price items were just not accepted when the order finally went through. Next, okay, the item may be free, but does it impact shipping? Does it impact fulfillment? In the same scenario, we actually had to send off an email for each order that had a free item because fulfillment wasn't aware of the item. So it had to be manually put in every box, and somebody needed to receive an email, okay, you need to put that free item in that box. And finally, what if the order is being returned in full or partially? What if the free item is a gift voucher that's already been used? How do you deal with that? So in an e-commerce project, typically every change, every addition, extension, feature will have a lot more implications than in a non-transactional project. So these are just things all to be aware of. Finally, regardless of your platform, out of the box is a very, very loose term. Because your requirements are so specific, because your backend infrastructure, your backend systems, your internal processes are typically very specific, out of the box can mean a lot of things. And whether you buy a platform and have a big box, small, concrete, cardboard, it doesn't really matter. Make sure that you know what exactly describes the out-of-the-box functionality, and know that it's always better to have a flexible box, a system that can easily be extended, than a rock-solid, unbreakable one, because you're going to end up having to break it, work around the system in that case. So flexibility in platform is always key. So these were just a few statements that I wanted to make and things to be aware of. But I also have a few tips. I call them golden tips. We'll see how much mileage you get out of them, but I want to share them with you anyway. First, whenever starting a commerce project, make sure to create a value map of all requirements. And a value map is more than an estimation of how much effort is this gonna take. Now, also challenge the business to see what is the value of this feature that you're asking. It's only if this is multi-dimensional value axis, cost axis, that you can really determine, okay, these green dots, yeah, they are what you would call the low-hanging fruit. They have high value, they have low complexity, low cost of implementation, typically your out-of-the-box features, etc., or small enhancements. yeah, those are definitely things to do. Everything in yellow, okay, some may have lower value, but also a lower cost. So it may be a quick win or a quick thing to do. Some of these have high cost and complexity, but may be absolutely necessary to your business. So you also need to implement them in the end. The red ones, those I would think 3 times about before doing them. They don't really add a ton of value, and they have a lot of complexity, adding risk, etc. Try to start really with something that is enough to take to market. You don't need to have everything out of the box or on live from day one. That's not the goal. Time to market in e-commerce is much more important than all these features that you are bringing. And then again, challenge all of these requirements. Typically, I've been in dozens of projects where I will hear, yeah, but we have this on our current site, so we also need it. And then you see, okay, it's a medium level effort to implement it. They have it now, so it's a must-have. But then in reality, the value of that is actually quite low, even though the perceived value internally is, it's a must-have because our biggest customer uses this. But maybe that biggest customer has such cheap prices that the margin over a year, for example, on that customer is only 100,000 euros that you make in margin, and maybe implementing this feature will also cost you between 50 and 100,000 euros. So that means that you're offering up a full year of ROI on one single feature. And so these are the ones that you really need to identify, try to find them on this value map by challenging, find these little devils that are hiding undoubtedly in these requirements before they catch up with you and before they completely throw off your timeline. Value mapping, the first and foremost thing to do whenever you're blueprinting, starting, meet with all these stakeholders and try to understand really what drives a certain feature. Also know that the argument, we have it now, so we need it in the future. Keep in mind that having it today does not mean that it was there from the start. It may have taken 2 or 3 years to get that feature right, with lots of sleepless nights and lots of legacy and lots of technical debt. So don't assume and take all that risk with you into a new implementation. So value map, really important. Next, and this is a bit more of an architecture or a technical topic, but respect the goals of every system within your organization or your client's organization. Do not think that your e-commerce system needs to be the one stop for everything external facing and internal facing. Your e-commerce system needs a product catalog, obviously, but you will have product master data in your ERP or in your PIM. Don't make your e-commerce system the master of that data. Import, enrich, and then serve it up to the necessary channels. That's more than enough. Same with pricing. Even though most commerce systems these days will offer some level of pricing configuration, pricing options, and those will be valuable, but don't make it your core decision engine on how much an item should cost, because eventually there's a big chance that your order will go through to an ERP system anyway, and that system will validate whatever the price is. So better to keep the logic on generating, calculating pricing there and just export the actual price. Definitely don't go into costing rules as far as if an item in production costs me 20 euros, I can sell it for 40 euros. Keep all of that apart. Same for stock availability. Most commerce systems offer a level of inventory and capability with warehouses, but that should really serve, okay, is an item available or not? Can I sell this online or not? Anything beyond that doesn't belong in your e-commerce system. It belongs in your warehouse management system or your ERP. If you want to know which bin an item is in, or if you want to move items around within your warehouse, all of that. There are systems for that. And if you really, really need to know, if you have a use case, you can always do a real-time call at the right moment, not always, obviously, for every product or for on the lister page, but you can always do a real-time call to get that specific information from whatever backend system. Same with order management. Don't try to make your e-commerce system your full-fledged OMS. Most systems are not designed for that, and even the ones that offer that capability typically do poorly in that area. There are dedicated systems which hand off the order from the system from the e-commerce system to the OMS or to the ERP and let it deal with it. Accounting, don't touch it, don't go there in your e-commerce system. That's all for the back office. Now in your project flow, once you start your implementation, it's important to try and deliver value early on. Don't try to, in this analogy, don't try to build the most beautiful head and face that you've ever seen if it doesn't have a body. No, this is the walking skeleton concept. Try to have a full skeleton of your project, of your final solution, ready as soon as possible, delivering value early on, and then just add meat and muscle around it as you go. Make sure that you don't get tied up into complex topics. For example, if you need to figure out how pricing will work or how your checkout will work, and it's complex in your scenario, don't focus solely on that because it may derail everything. No, again, make sure that you deliver value early on. Back to what I said earlier, where you have many stakeholders, doing this will align all of them, will give them visibility into what is happening, and will also allow you to test much faster. I often see that when a project plan is made, it's like X number of sprints if it's agile or a waterfall process, and then at the very back, okay, now we're going to do SIT, system integration testing, and now we're going to do and after SIT, and typically that's immediately after SIT, we're going to plan UAT, and immediately after the UAT phase, yeah, then we'll go live, which means, okay, you haven't tested anything. Very few people have had real interaction with the project. All of a sudden, SIT happens. Some things may come out of that. Typically, that's underestimated, so that eats then into half of your UAT period. And then UAT is shortened, is rushed because the go live date is there, and you go live with something that either people aren't accustomed to, either there's things that don't function the way it was expected, not necessarily bugs, but just implemented in a different way and or a different vision around it, and people are unhappy, or customer adoption is lower than you would expect. So really try to create value throughout the whole project. This is number 4, and honestly, it should be top of the list, top of mind at least, but make sure that you always design for performance. When it comes to e-commerce projects, performance is always key just because there are so many moving parts, so many variables. It really should start on day one of the project, whether you're a project manager, whether you're an architect, or whether you're a developer. Performance should always be top of mind. As a developer, really measure whatever you implement, measure how long it takes, add timings to every relevant code block, and really believe me, you'll need them, because once you deploy to a live environment where you can just go into debug and skip steps or step into methods, you need to know how much time something is taking. One of the things with e-commerce, and I'm talking especially about the lister page, a very heavy and complex page because it contains lots of products, but also the cart page. Make sure that you test these with enough products. Know that if you need to do a lookup for whatever reason and it takes 100 milliseconds per product, if you have a lister page with 50 products, That's 5 seconds right there, just in processing time, not to mention that your system may lock up because of all those requests happening in the background. And same with the cart. I've seen dozens of projects where, okay, it's all tested and I add 2-3 items to my cart, and then the real life use case is that an average cart size is between 40 and 80 products. So whatever calculation needs to happen on the cart is not times 2 or 3. You don't notice that, you don't feel that as a developer when testing, but do that times 40 or times 80, that's when it gets noticeable, and a whole lot of refactoring may be needed if you don't think of it in advance. And again, this walking skeleton concept that I've mentioned earlier will really help you in identifying these things quicker. And then this is something that I always do whenever I lead a project or I work on a project, and it's one of the most valuable things to have around for me personally, and that is really create a mission statement that is understood and supported by everybody, from your dev team to the CEO or CIO or whoever owns the project, everybody in between. That is absolutely clear. Every project will have a statement of work, will have a contract, etc., where all the technical details and the financial details are described. But when you're working on a project day to day, this mission statement is really what should guide you. It's a balanced agreement between the business and the implementation team so that both are empowered with clear priorities and focus, because you will have difficult times in every project. So make sure that you always have that North Star when there's doubt. Which decision, which direction should we go? Well, the mission statement said this, so this is where we should go, with all project drivers, goals, dependencies, and especially make sure that it's justified, that there is a why in there. If you tell somebody this project needs to go live at the end of December without any reason, that means a lot less than if there is a compelling argument, if there is a business reason, and if that is understood by the whole project team. I'll give you an example. First, you set a goal of your project, which is typically a business driver or a strategic goal, to become the premier whatever e-commerce portal in whatever region you're in. That is a clear goal, but it doesn't really say a lot. So then we go into some more specifics. It needs to go live before April 1st, 2021. Why? Well, because our current software license expires, or because we want to launch a new line of business. That is a reasonable and a justified target. But it's also a statement that, okay, we will work as part of this mission to go live then. And if for whatever reason there are delays or there is some things take longer, this is one of the things to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that everything should be there by that date, but it's one of the parameters that has been set out. Make sure that the focus and the priority is known. For example, we have a lot of seasonal traffic, so we need to be able to handle peaks. So maybe we should always make sure that performance is top of mind rather than trying to add too many features. That's also a clear goal and a clear focus. And whenever there is a question, for example, let's say that on the listed page you want to be able to filter by in stock or out of stock. That's an additional query to your to every product, knowing whether it's in stock or out of stock, and thus has a performance impact. Then you can say, okay, or do we really want to go there? Because given that we have these extreme peaks of traffic, that may not be a good idea. Or maybe if we implement the feature, we need to make sure that it's configurable, that we can turn it off, because we're definitely going to take a hit on performance if we enable that during these peak times. And these goals and targets, they can change. They're not necessarily carved in stone. You can change this, but only, again, when it's understood and supported by everybody. If, for example, the go live is planned April 1st, but they say, okay, we want to get something out before Christmas, then okay, you can change your mission statement and then say, okay, we want to go by Christmas, but our focus will change, and instead of trying to do this much, we're going to go with a subset that we launch in the first phase, and then maybe the second release, instead of April 1st, can be moved up to May or June, just to see how the initial test and the pilot program goes. Just make sure that everybody, a developer also gets a lot of value out of this, because they know what is expected from a business perspective, rather than a statement of work which they will never see, and just being told it needs to be ready at this date. And then finally, make sure that there's a commitment to each other. The business has requirements that needs to be implemented. Your implementation team gives a commitment. Okay, we will show you that walking skeleton every 3 weeks. We will show you how we're moving along. Just make sure that whatever requirement you ask is clear, and then you can validate that 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later, but have that commitment to each other. Don't go changing requirements in the middle of an implementation sprint. That's against every agile rule to start, but that's also throwing off and demotivating people, because they don't have that sense of vision, of commitment for everybody to make this a success. Let me quickly wrap up with a few things that Sitecore can do for you. First of all, from a platform, Sitecore and Sitecore Experience Commerce is an open and easy to extend platform. Some will say you can build anything with Sitecore. It is definitely developer friendly. We offer a scalable and flexible commerce engine that's built on .NET Core, exposed through microservices. But most important, and this also goes to the out-of-the-box topic, we really approach this product not trying to be everything to everybody out of the box, but by making sure that whatever you want to extend, it can be done in an easy way. If you're starting a project with Sitecore Commerce, or you're thinking about it, or are working on one, the Commerce Overlay team is here to help. We can assist you as a partner in pre-sales activities. We can help qualify an opportunity, do solution brainstorming. We can give you insights into similar cases. What have other customers done? How are other customers using our technology? As well as provide updates on the product itself, training options, things that are happening in the community. That's why I love initiatives like this, because this is really what drives innovation and experience sharing. And finally, our professional services team is also available. We really suggest highly or recommend highly that they are involved in some way or another in every commerce project. They are the boots on the floor with many of our big customers. They know what is happening. They know how problems are being solved there. They're not there to do everything. They're there purely to support our partners and our customers. And if you are involved with professional services, make sure to call them in early. Don't keep them as like a last resort or a final review. No, really leverage their experience as well. Build up experience. Make sure that your approach before starting is as solid as it can be, and you have a great project. With that, I thank you, and I will stop sharing and give the screen back to Saurabh.
Thank you, Timothy. That was really insightful. For me, there are a few great takeaways, like not taking too much responsibilities or the functionalities which are not necessary for the commerce system. And then, I was looking at the performance part. Taking on the performance early is a kind of, thinking about the performance and not waste time until like go live to take on the performance. That's one of the key takeaways for me. And then another important thing, adding the timings to the blocks. That's really really nice and really insightful to kind of know. And I think what we have seen is like most of the commerce project failing due to these factors as well. Like people try to take on a lot of things, delay stuff, and then performance and all those things can suffer.
Exactly.
That's really good, man. Really good. So now it's time for questions. If anyone has got any questions. Just wait for a few more seconds. Let's see if the questions are coming in. Otherwise, we'll move on. So let me clarify one more thing is like, we are not teaching XC here. It's just about talking about, what is latest, what is happening in the commerce world and how you can best manage your commerce experience. That is what is all about. And then, we will show certain demos in upcoming sessions. But for now, we are just kind of building up the base to tell you how the commerce project should be tackled.
Exactly. That was also my goal for this session. I'm more than happy to follow up. Like I said, the overlay team is available. Technical marketing is available. We're more than happy to present deep dives hands-on during one of the next sessions as well. But as a start, everything starts at the beginning, right?
Yeah. And Timothy, I think we have got a few more questions. Thanks. It was a nice session. Could you please tell us about maturity of Sitecore Commerce?
Absolutely. Sitecore Commerce, as you may know, originated in the commerce server world. Then about some 2 years ago, it was completely rewritten with a modern architecture, as I mentioned, that microservices.NET Core base. And then I can tell you that in the last 2 years, the main focus and almost the sole focus of the whole product team has been on maturing, stabilizing, and making sure that the performance of the platform is as good as it can be. We now have some of the biggest online retailers using it in the US, for example, with 4 million products surviving Black Friday, Christmas season without any issues. So really, I believe the product is at a very mature state from a performance, scalability, and as always, it is extendable to meet whatever requirements you may have. So for me, it's a great cornerstone of any commerce architecture.
That's cool. Thank you. And there are a few more questions actually coming in now. So one is like, can we implement B2B, B2C using Sitecore Commerce? And there is another question related to that I will read out. Sitecore Commerce is for B2B or B2C? So those are the two questions I have together.
That's a good question. Well, our core functionality focuses on commerce functionality and doesn't differentiate between B2C and B2B. Now, the out-of-the-box storefront is definitely a B2C focused storefront. Next to that, we offer a very flexible entity model, allowing you to create whatever B2B specific entities that there may be. And companies like Assurex, for example, have built B2B accelerators that have done some of that work already for you and that are easy to install and then extend further to meet whatever B2B functionality you would require. For example, customer specific pricing or quotations, etc. Important to know is that solutions like this, they're built really fully on top of experience commerce. They're not standalone products that you then need to integrate with, etc. And this in itself is, for me, a great example of how extendable the commerce engine is. So if you have questions around B2C or B2B, definitely reach out. There's definitely a solution out there that will work for you.
That's really cool. I'll pick up one more question because there are a few more coming in, but given the time we have got, I'll pick up one more. So, one person is asking how stable is Sitecore Commerce 9.3, and what improvements we can see in 9.4, the next version.
Well, 9.4, I can tell you, has been branded version 10. And is scheduled to release in, I believe, in about 2 weeks. Sitecore XP 10 will release next week, and then typically Commerce follows 2 weeks later. We have aligned schedules. Like I said, all of the work, the true focus over a year of the team has been on stability for Sitecore Commerce. We've upped the baseline of supported products of throughput, page views, throughput of orders by a factor 10 between the early 9 versions and version 9.3. So if you are on an early 9 version, there is a compelling argument to upgrade. If you're starting low that with 9.3 or the upcoming 10 release, you have a highly scalable, well-performing commerce engine and commerce system to take you into your next steps.
That's really cool. Good to hear that. And we might call you again to explain us the features about Sitecore 10 later on, Commerce 10, maybe in the
All right, happy to do so.
But yeah, Timothy, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. It was really great, and thank you again for your time and sharing some great stuff. That was really insightful. And for all the questions that I couldn't pick up online, we will try to get you an answer afterwards. Thank you very
Sounds
much,
good.
Timothy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so that you get notified about our latest videos. If you want to know more about our services, please head to our website at assurex.co. Thank you very much once again. Take care and stay safe.